Hi, folks. It's Keith Beardsley of the Beardsley Real Estate Team here today with a special blog. And I want to look at what's going on in the town of Carleton Place and that subdivision where 40 to 50% of the buyers walked away, defaulted, and the builder has been selling homes at roughly half the price for what other people paid for them. So, for those who don't know the issue, this is a subdivision that went in. A lot of people bought the homes or paid for them in 2021. The houses were constructed 2022, 2023. So they were buying, quite a long distance out, 12 or more months from the completion of the home. And so that in itself becomes an issue as to why the buyers would do that. Now, when they bought, the mortgage rates were quite low, actually historically low. And as we know, over the last year, they went way up. Now, what this means is as the house came ready and the builder would come and say, I need the rest of the money, the banks were saying no, right? These people could no longer afford those homes. So, of course, you have to walk away. So, this brings into a whole bunch of issues. What happens to the homes that are already there, where people paid 800 to 900,000 for them, and now people are getting them, in the fours and fives. Well, I wouldn't want to have to sell today and go up against that competition, but give it a year or so and that stuff will start to level out. Now, the other issue in here, of course, is what happens to the buyers and what happens to you if your mortgage is coming up for renewal. There's going to be a lot of people under pressure as this year unfolds to make those payments. They're going to be renewing at much higher rates. So if you bought a house at 2 or 3%, whatever it was, and now you're renewing at 5%, that will create a financial stress. So yes, there will be some homes come on the market, some from builders, some from people who bought. So best advice if your mortgage is coming up, shop around. The rate your bank is going to renew you at, you may be able to get a better rate somewhere else. Check your penalty clauses if you decide to do that. And above all, work with your lender. If you're working with a bank, if you're working with another financial institution, talk to them, not at the last minute, not a week or a day before it's renewed. Start talking to them a few months in advance. There's lots of things people can do and that the banks can do for you because they don't want you to default either. So they're going to step up and try and help you out. And like I said, you can shop around. Nothing wrong with doing that. Just be careful what you're doing. Talk to your lawyer. Your lawyer will start to give you advice on this as well. So that is one issue. The other issue is if you're going to buy from a builder, and real estate agents will sell homes from builders too, right? We're not blaming the builders. Just read the sales contract, every last word of it. Some builders have very long contracts, some have very short, some have a standard issue one, some have their own. If you're buying from a builder, even if you're using an agent, sit down and read the entire thing. Normally, the buyer will focus on the first or second page because that's where it's got the price, the deposits, all that type of information. But there's other clauses in that contract. What happens if the builder decides he's not making enough money building a subdivision, there's not enough buyers, and he decides he's not going to complete it? What happens if you've got one of the homes that is waiting to be built in that subdivision? What happens if the builder decides that they can't afford to build your house anymore because the cost of materials has gone up? Good question. What happens if you default? Is even more important. Look at these people in Carleton Place. They've defaulted. What does their contract say with the builder? Does the contract say they lose their deposits? And if you're buying from a builder, it's a much higher deposit than if you're buying a resale home. What happens to that deposit? Can the builder keep it? Read the contract. If you default, and let's say the builder, as in Carleton Place, now the house was originally sold for 800,000 to 900,000. The builder's now selling it 400,000 to 500,000. Can a builder legally come after you for the difference, for the amount of money they lost? The answer to that is yes, they can. You signed a contract. And that's a very common lawsuit in some cities in Ontario, particularly thinking of Toronto, where the prices tend to go up and down fairly drastically. It's the same in a resale. If you buy a home from someone and then you decide not to close, does that owner have to give you your deposit back? Can that owner sue you for the difference when they resell it? It's quite possible. You signed a legally binding contract, so keep that in mind. Should the average seller out there right now be worried about what's happening in Carleton Place? No. It's a different situation. If you're a buyer, should you be worried about what's happening out there? No. Lots happening because of Carleton Place. Lots more will probably happen over the next year. Do your homework. Get a good agent. Have a good lawyer. Work with your financial institution. And above all, read the contract. Keith Beardsley of the Beardsley Real Estate Team, wishing you a great day.